A press conference, bright lights, microphones pointed at a man who has spent decades in football. Ivan Hašek, coach of the Czech Republic, sits in front of the world press. He has 24 hours before facing Mexico, and he could have said anything. He could have talked about tactics, about discipline, about the system in 4 or in 5. He could have given the boring answer that no one remembers the next day. But no. Instead, he opens his mouth and lets something out that no one in that room expected to hear. Within hours, his words are in every headline. Furious Mexican fans, former officials demanding explanations, and a single phrase echoing in every WhatsApp group, every forum, every corner of Latin American football internet. How dare he? This is what happened. To understand why these words hit so hard, you have to understand what Mexico means to world football. El Tri isn't just another team, it's an institution. 130 million people who wear green and red like a second skin. A country that has qualified for 7 consecutive World Cups, 7, and that has built a football identity that transcends continents. The grito de guerra echoes in stadiums in Russia, Qatar, Brazil, and the next destination will be the 2026 World Cup, which Mexico is co-hosting along with the United States and Canada. That's power, that's history. And the Czech Republic, with all due respect, doesn't carry that symbolic weight. It's a national team that lives off the memory of 1970s Czechoslovakia, of that team that shone in 76 by winning the Euros, of Nedved running as if the devil himself were chasing him at Juventus. But as an independent Czech Republic, as its own footballing nation, the history is more modest. No World Cups won, no finals reached. A quarter-final at Euro 96 was as close as they got to modern glory. So when the two teams found themselves on the international calendar, Mexico versus Czech Republic, most saw it as an interesting match. Friendly on paper but loaded with footballing subtext. No one expected the bomb to go off before the referee even blew the opening whistle. The press room was packed. Mexican journalists, Czech journalists, international correspondents. Ivan Hašek, a 63-year-old man, former Sparta Prague player, a coach with experience in Central European clubs, took the microphone with the calm of someone who has been through 1,000 battles. And then he spoke. The exact words vary depending on the translation. But the message was unmistakable. Hašek downplayed Mexico. Not subtly, not with the diplomatic language taught in FIFA media training courses. He did it head-on, suggesting that El Tri wasn't at the level its reputation promised. That they were a team of name, not of real quality. That the Czech Republic was coming into the match without fear, because, according to him, there was no reason to have any. At a press conference, the day before the match, and he didn't say this in private, it wasn't a leak, it wasn't an open mic by accident. It was a deliberate statement, looking at the camera, fully aware that every word would reach Mexican ears before the night was over. The reaction was immediate and devastating. Social media on fire, former Tri players grabbing their phones, sports journalists calling emergency debates, and one word that began circulating with a force Hašek probably didn't anticipate. Resign. What makes this so explosive isn't just what he said, it's how he said it and when he said it. In modern football, coaches learn from day one of their training that there are moments when words are more dangerous than any tactical scheme from the opponent. Before a big match, especially against a team like Mexico, with its army of fans and its powerful media, the unwritten rule is respect. Not fear, respect. Mourinho knows it, Guardiola knows it. Even the most provocative coaches on the circuit calibrate their words with surgical precision to motivate their own players without waking the sleeping giant in front of them. Hašek broke that rule, and the detail that most enrages Mexican fans is this. The Czech Republic currently sits at 40th in the FIFA ranking. Mexico has fluctuated between 12th and 16th for years. There's an objective, measurable gap recorded by the International Federation's own data. And the coach of the number 40 team comes out and downplays the number 15 team? That in football language is called a failure to read reality. But there's something else. Something the most attentive fans didn't overlook. Hašek made these comments in a context where the Czech Republic is going through a moment of generational rebuilding. Their last Euros was a stumble. Their last World Cup qualifying campaigns, complicated. And their golden generation, Rosický, Nedved, Čech, hung up their boots a long time ago. Provocation to motivate his own players? A miscalculation in communication? Genuine arrogance? The answer changes depending on who you ask. But what no one disputes is what it triggered. This episode goes far beyond a football match. It touches something Mexico has been building for decades and something it still hasn't resolved.
El Tri is a market powerhouse. It's a fan-base powerhouse. It's a regional history powerhouse. But in recent years, especially since the 2018 and 2022 World Cups, there's been an uncomfortable question hanging in the air. Is Mexico a real giant or a paper giant? At Russia 2018, Mexico arrived with Osorio at the helm, beat Germany in one of the most euphoric matches in recent Tri history, and then fell to Brazil in the round of 16. Another fifth match that never came. The curse of the fifth match extended once again, like a shadow no coach has been able to shake off. At Qatar 2022, the story was even more painful. Mexico was eliminated in the group stage, for the first time in decades. The country went into shock. The debates became existential. What's failing? Is it the league system, the naturalization of players, the media pressure that crushes young players before they can grow? And in that context, for Hašek to come out and downplay Mexico isn't simply a lack of respect.
It's pressing exactly on the wound that still hasn't healed. Because if a European coach from a country in rebuilding mode can walk into a press conference and treat El Tri as a lesser rival, what does that say about the work that still needs to be done? What does that say about the project Mexico is showing the world? The calls for Hašek's resignation from Czech fans, because yes, there are also internal voices in the Czech Republic who consider these statements a monumental strategic mistake, speak to a standard Europeans hold themselves to. The harder question Mexico should be asking itself is, when will they respond with football? Because Hašek's words only really hurt if there's some truth in them, and that only the pitch can tell. There's an image that defines this moment better than any statistic.
Is the image of millions of Mexican fans in Mexico, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, in Madrid, watching this video on their phones, feeling that heat in their chest that mixes indignation with wounded pride. That heat that says, I'm not going to let you get away with this. That's what football does. That's what no other sport replicates with that intensity. The ability to turn 22 men on a field into something that affects the identity of entire nations. Ivan Hašek, perhaps without meaning to, gave Mexico exactly what a team needs before an important match. Fuel. The question is whether El Tri knew how to burn it. Because in football, as in life, being right isn't enough. Having history, having fans, having the ranking on your side isn't enough. You have to prove it. In 90 minutes, with the ball, in the only court that matters. And the cruel irony of all this, the irony that makes this story perfect for football, is that if Mexico wins, no one will remember Hašek's words. They'll laugh at him. The match will have answered. But if Mexico loses, Hašek's words will haunt El Tri for months. The headlines will shift direction. And the wound of the fifth match of Qatar 2022 will reopen. That is the cruelty and the beauty of this sport. So let me ask you, you who made it this far, who felt something while reading this, do you think Hašek said all that because he genuinely believes it? Or was it a calculated strategy to pressure his own players and destabilize El Tri before the match? Leave your answer in the comments. I want to read what the community thinks. And if this kind of analysis, where we go beyond the scoreboard, where we search for the story within the story, is what you're looking for on YouTube, then you already know what to do. Subscribe, hit the bell, because here at the World Cup Reporter, football is never just a match. There's always something more.